Well, let's take a look at all the activity moving out of the summer season into early autumn, which is a time of lots of activity in the garden and our last attempts at getting outside before it gets too cold into the winter and enjoying the gardens outside and painting. For me, painting plein air outside. We've had some interesting, not just weather, but we've had local bushfires filling the air with smoke and back burning, which makes it pretty difficult to get outside sometimes. But when I have, I've really enjoyed having the slightly cooler weather, although we've had a few days here and there that have just decided to be summer again and been quite hot. But having the sunshine but cooler weather to enjoy the outdoors without it being too cool yet is an awesome time. Autumn is such a beautiful, pretty time when the leaves start turning yellow, reds, and golden colours, beautiful colours. It makes it a gorgeous time to be outdoors, gardening, painting, just outdoors really. But it's also a time to get the winter vegetables in, get the seedlings going, and get the gardens prepared for the winter time before we want to hibernate. So let me show you around and show you what I've been up to, which is heaps. My guess is you're going to see a lot of makeovers in my garden because there's been some substantial changes in the garden. This area you're looking at right now is an area that just got away from me and I abandoned, and we've decided to put raised beds in here. We're fighting pretty bad grasses that are a bit too persistent for me to be able to keep up with. And if anything happens like it did last year, then it all just, takes over the garden and I get pretty disheartened. But the changes we are making a huge difference. So you're going to see some dramatic change and some beautiful after the fact images and video. So this area we brush cut down after I rescued a few plants. I had to work quickly because my husband had time off, and I had to grab what I could and then let him go in there and plough over the rest. Not that there was much in there. I salvaged a few strawberries and currant, and there's a mulberry, and not a lot else. There was, however, seeds. I had deliberately let some plants go to seed so that I could collect them. So I collected them. So in anticipation of great things to come, I did a little bit of shopping. I went in to get potting mix from Bunnings, which I'll never do again because it was terrible. But I come out with some great plants. Some chocolate cosmos, petunias, dahlias, and not much food plants. But this year I want to add colour, beautiful colour to my gardens, because I grew dahlias for the first time, and This year I had some cafe au lait dahlias, and they really were food for my soul. They made my heart sing. So I've fallen in love with dahlias, and I want some more flowers in my garden. I want to be able to pick bunches of flowers and bring them inside. But I've pretty much given up on potting mix. This last lot that I got from Bunnings smelt like the local tip. It had that real rotten, sour garbage smell. So we decided to get some soil in for the raised beds, and enough that I can have it for potting mix as well. I also needed to freshen up some beds, so this was the perfect solution. Although there is no perfect soil, I'm finding it's very difficult to get really clean soil. I found I was picking out little bits of glass and wire, nails, plastic, things like that. Not a lot, but little bits. So I'll be sure to wear my gloves when I'm gardening at all times, I think. So I have a ton of jobs to do in the garden, and lots of trimming, lots of weeding, still lots of weeding. But my focus at the moment is trying to get the new garden beds up and going. So I've been collecting cardboard, and but I took a bit of a detour and bought some bulbs and things in anticipation. But that's what you do. We'll come back to the new garden area, but this was the first job I had to do. I was so excited to see a flower on this banana. Now we're a colder climate, but I managed to get a flower, and some bananas started to develop on my banana plant. It was a bit overcrowded, and so we had to decrowd it and take it down to a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter plant. You have the three working together at different stages. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough bananas on it to warrant letting that thing trying to mature. And I was advised by banana experts to chop that off, which I did, and leave the main trunk about 2 meters high. Now that's not the actual term for the trunk for that area, but you'll know what I mean. The trunk, and hopefully next season I'll have a better lot of bananas. But nothing was wasted. So what I didn't use as mulch, we ate. Well, I froze to eat. I have cooked the inside of these trunks before. You can actually eat the center, and you can eat that flower. In fact, you can even eat those little bananas, but I did compost them. Now this is the innermost core of the plant, of the main trunk, and it's quite funky. You chop it up, and I like to fry it in butter, and to me it tastes like fried onion. But I say funky because it oxidizes very quickly. So as soon as you cut it, it starts going brown. And just the look of it to me is really strange, but it's really delicious. So here in the Western world, there's a lot of parts of plants we just don't eat that we could be eating. In fact, that is common in some other countries, but very strange for us. But until you try it, you don't realize if you like it or not. And I really do like these because I particularly love fried onion, and it really did taste just like that. So of course, do your due diligence, but look up things and see if you can eat them or not, because we waste a lot of the plants that we harvest parts of. So for instance, things like cabbages, we eat the head, but the leaves are just cabbage too. And the leaves off a broccoli plant and cauliflower plant are edible as well, and we often waste them. But let's return to the big build. So we're walking past all this mess which has come out of the greenhouse, and if you remember in my last video, the greenhouse was totally overrun, floor to ceiling weeds, and my husband has brush cut it and he's pulled all that out. Now these are the seedlings that I rescued from in that area that we're building in, and you can see just behind that dahlia a seedling station that got hit by the brush cutter. But we'll just look at the flower. So this is what I used to transplant the seedlings and the plants. At that stage I didn't have the soil, and I didn't even have bags of potting mix at that time, so I had the coconut coir that I soaked. They were big blocks and I soaked them, but I'm not sure how I feel about that as a medium. Pretty good for strawberries, but you know, it's quite rough. It's very different to coconut, to the peat moss. But that's it. It's all swelled up, but it's kind of like, it reminds me of barky steel wool. But we used it for a bit until I got some soil, and then I put the seedlings in that. So mainly the big stuff went into that. And I'm not sure why I'm showing you that bed. But anyhow, I dumped it in a tub. That's the currant there. I dumped it in the tub just like that, and it stayed like that for days. And it was happy enough. And the strawberry plants I put in a little container and with water, and until I could get to it. So the work began, as you can hear. My husband got into it. These plants were taken out and he started building it. So it was made to measure. Now I drew out a plan for him and he built it for me, and I'm absolutely thrilled with the way it turned out. He dug very deep trenches to put the metal in, the sides in. We're kind of hoping that will hold the grass at bay a bit. But the trenches kind of help the outside, but the grass is still on the inside. So I spent days upon days trying to dig out as much of that grass as I could. And it was really stubborn. I got just bins upon bin loads of it. Some of it was really firmly in the clay below though. But I figured if I get the bulk of it and heavily cardboard before I mulch, we might be able to keep on top of it. And if it keeps growing through, decided we'll just brush cut. But you can see these roots go everywhere, and they are everywhere, and so I'm just doing the best I can with it. But you never know. The first time I mulched here, I only used one layer of cardboard. At this time, I've given it at least 3 layers of cardboard, and inside the beds, I put about 4 layers of cardboard before all sorts of mulching material went on top of that, before the soil even touched it. And there was lots of grubs in the soil, those little lawn grubs that have kind of migrated to my place, I think, because the neighbours got manicured lawns, but they poison them. And so I've probably got the healthier soil. Well, not probably, I definitely have the healthiest soil. It's chemical free. And but there were so many of them that I fed tons to the chickens, and I'm sure I missed plenty as well. But if there's too many of these grubs, they eat the roots of the plants as well, and They obviously aren't that much damaging to lawns though, because they certainly didn't kill the grass for me. So with all those numbers of grubs, they still didn't kill grass. While I was doing this, I did wonder if I was fighting a losing battle, but we have concluded we'll just brush cut it if this doesn't work. But saying my prayers and hoping for the best. So you can see the difference after weeding it. This is the section that hasn't been weeded, but eventually, after 2 weeks of getting out there as much as I could, I got it all weeded. So then it was time to line the pathway area there and the beds themselves. So I started with several layers of cardboard, like I said before, and we used logs that we had stored around the place. We had a big cleanup and put just about everything into that here. We collected the wood shavings and that are impregnated with chicken poo from out of the hen house, and there's the logs, and I had a compost bin full of the shavings from the chicken pen that hadn't decomposed properly. I popped them in. This is my husband cleaning out the chicken pen, so the run. Once or twice a year, we put a whole lot of bush mulch in it, which starts out really, really big. That breaks down, or half breaks down, so there's still a lot of wood in it, but there's a lot of soil too and manure. So that went into the beds as well. So we got it not about half full with these things. There was kitchen scraps that went in there. There was bananas. When I chopped some of the more bananas down, I threw that in there. There was some trimmings from the garden that I knew wouldn't sprout or grow. That went in there. And then it was time to add the soil. And I forgot to mention that you can see in this shot that I did put a layer of sugarcane mulch across all of it, just in case there was weed seeds in the pen. Now the chooks probably got them all out, but let's not risk it. So I put that down, and I also soaked every layer. So I had the hose out. I used the tank water so it wouldn't have chlorine in it, and I hosed everything down in between the layers. And then when I say we, there was no we in the mulching. There was a we in the soil. My husband and I both did the soil together, but he finished off the mulching, and it was a very, very long day. So that's him backing out with the last load of mulch, and in between I managed to sneak in some of those flowers and bulbs right on the end. Now I left the wooden braces exposed. It's probably not necessary. We used hardwood. We used cedar for the uprights. There's no treated pine or anything. But I decided to leave them exposed just so they'd last longer. Those the cross supports, but also to section off the garden, and so I kind of can draw out more easily what is in there. So to see what I actually plant in there and how I prepare my winter crops and a bit of propagating and other makeovers and projects, be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Now go sow a seed today, get some food growing for yourselves, or more food growing for yourselves, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.